right, so this is exactly what I would do for a typical prep. I cooked the rice with the chicken stock at a 2-to-1 ratio. That's 2 parts stock to 1 part rice. This is for a high day for today. So it's 700 grams of the rice with 100 grams of the diced peppers up top, and then 100 grams of carrots cooked in there. So the thing about the rice though, if you want to portion it easily and correctly, where you're trying to stay on top of whatever goal it is that you have, if you're calorie counting or whatever it is, I found that if you weigh everything dry or raw and then just kind of portion direct from the pot, because like I know that this whole pot is 700 grams by weight of rice. Every 100 grams is about 75 carbs. So, you know, it's like almost 600 grams of carbs or something like that. But I know that however I divvy it up between these containers here, the end result, the end amount by the end of day will be exactly the same. So I don't have to sit here like I used to do and put each container, you know, on the scale and zero it out and weigh everything cooked, because that's going to be inaccurate over time, and then you'll have extra left over, and it's not accounting for the fluid content and all this, the heat variance if you over undercook, the way the vegetables, all this stuff. It's a lot more accurate if you just weigh it all raw and then you figure, hey, as long as I eat all of this by the end of the day, I will have exactly to the gram the amount that I need, and there's no waste, and it's consistent every time. You know, if you're figuring day by day, those little amounts, if I have, you know, 4 meals with rice a day out of 6, you know, my last one doesn't have any carbs, and my first meal is going to be the cakes that I make that I have a video on. But you figure if you're having, you know, 4 rice meals a day, or at least where the carbs are coming from rice, and you're plus minus so much, because you're being less accurate with it. If you're doing something like cooked weight, those little bits will add up to either to your benefit if you're in a calorie deficit or a surplus, depending on what your goal is, or to your detriment. Because if you consider, it only takes 3,500 calories to create a pound of fat in excess, right? So you might think, oh, it's not a big deal, I'll just do it, you know, cooked weight, or I'll just kind of volumetrically measure and it doesn't really matter. But it's like, if you're being consistent and you're doing it every day, those little things add up. So it's important to just, you know, do it, in my opinion, in a more accurate way by doing it raw. And then you just don't have to think about it. And it is a little bit faster too, because you see, like I just portioned all 4 of these, versus, you know, if you have to take each container and put it on the scale every time and zero it out and calculate, you know, like taking little bits off just to try and get exactly to the gram. It's a lot faster and easier to just weigh it once as the whole pot, and then you don't have to worry about it. And anecdotally, I noticed that when I started doing that, by the way, just doing that at all, whether you're actually calculating the exact calories or not, even if you're just being consistent with measuring everything raw, and that includes protein especially, even something like vegetables and fruit, that adds up. But weighing everything raw, just doing that, you will favorably recomposition just by doing that. And it's a very easy step, and it saves time too with portioning everything out like that. So, okay, so that's what I would do for the rice in terms of portioning. I have all the meat thawed right here. I'm gonna make another batch of rice out of this using this pot, so I won't clean it. I'll just put the rice back in here in a moment and make another batch here. And while that's cooking, I'll thaw the next round of meat. But this is what I had thawed for today. And then again, while this is cooking, I'll be thawing the same kinds of meat that I have here, which is the pork loin, the sirloin, and the 90-10. And then that all is gonna be thawing while this next batch is cooking. And then by the time this is done, I'll pop it out, portion it just like this, except over here, except it's gonna be for a low day tomorrow because I'm off the gym. So that's gonna be 400 grams of rice instead of 700. That's a good trick too, by the way, is on your days off, have about half the amount of carbs that you do on a training day. As a rough rule, that's a good idea, I think. But so that's what I'm gonna be doing here. The meat's gonna be thawed, and by the time this is done cooking, that meat will be ready to be put in more containers like this. I'll portion it out like I'm about to show you for this day. And then that's gonna be that for the meat and the rice. Now, as far as the vegetables go, in the background there, I have these that I weighed out. I have 100 grams raw weight again. My last meal that's gonna be here. No carbs in that meal. I just feel a little bit better, and I notice I stay leaner when I do that. So I'm gonna have that going in the microwave while this is cooking and while the meat's thawing. And that's 200 grams in there, so I'll just divvy it up again between here and here. And the only difference too is that I have a potato here. That's gonna be, there's 2 portions here, because typically, like the potatoes that I have are like, 12 ounces. And so if I cook 2 of them, it's 24. I have 8 ounces raw per meal, or per day. So I can cook 1.5 pounds at a time, and I know that'll last me 3 days. Same as the meat, I like to thaw 3 days worth at a time. This is all just for convenience. So I'm gonna take about, again, because I know the raw weight of this, I can just kind of eyeball it now, and I know that the end result will be exactly what I need. So I can just look at this and go, okay, half of this, half of that for here, and then half of this, half of that for what will be in this, the rice and potato on that. So this is gonna, again, save a lot of time if you kind of weigh everything raw ahead of time and pre-portion it. And the same goes for the meat. Like, I know, as per my cooking video, that this pork loin steak here, it was 8 ounces raw when I weighed it originally before I cooked it. So I don't have to weigh it. I just grab it and put it in the container and it's good to go. Same thing with these burgers here. The round ones are the 90-10, the more square shaped ones, because they come in these tubes, 1 pound tubes that I just kind of cut in half, and those are my 8 ounce portions, right? So that's sirloin. So again, I don't have to weigh the meat. It's already weighed, before I even cook it raw. So I can just grab it out of the container and throw it in. It's less time to weigh stuff, and it's way more accurate. So that's what I'm saying. If you just weigh everything raw ahead of time, especially in bulk or in batches, it's a lot easier to just, again, when the rice comes off, just throw it in there. And then once the rice is in there, you just throw the meat in there, and you don't have to like sit there and weigh every single ingredient. It's just significantly faster and more efficient. And not only that, but it's calorically more accurate. So your composition, your body composition will stay more consistent over time. Nobody told me this, and I was just kind of volumetrically, measuring stuff or doing it by eye. And I was like, oh, it's fine. A chicken breast is a chicken breast, etc. And you just kind of grab and go. But those little bits, again, will get away from you, because it only takes, again, 3,500 calories up net, like over a week, if it's a couple hundred a day, to add up to that 35 in excess. In terms of a surplus, that's 1 pound of body fat. You do that week over week, month after month, year after year. It's no surprise when you gain so much extra, but anyway, okay, so the rice is portioned. I usually season after the fact. Now, there's a little bit of sodium in the chicken stock, but what I do is, with a measuring spoon, a 1/4 teaspoon is about 600 milligrams of sodium. So I'll just level that off, and I'll do like half of it there, And again, level it off, half there, half there. So that's a half a teaspoon of salt, mainly for the iodine and a little bit of sodium, because again, I get a fair amount in the chicken stock that I'm gonna be, or that I cook the rice in. So, all right. So this is pretty much exactly how I would do it. And again, I can have like a little extra of the potato for today because it's a high day, it's not a big deal, but I know that between today and tomorrow, it'll be the same amount anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And with the amount of rice that I'm having, especially with the amount of stock that I like to add to soften it up, it does have a lot of volume, and these are 3-cup size Pyrex containers. So they don't accommodate a ton, just barely enough for what I need. But this is just to give you an idea in terms of perspective of what I'm using here. All right, and so that is how we do that. And so if I weren't talking and explaining everything here, you can imagine like this is pretty straightforward and easy to do, where I would have just portioned out the rice, throw the meat in there, potatoes already done, an apple a day in the morning is what I usually do. Now the only difference is for a full day of eating, the green beans would have been cooking typically, instead of while I was talking and explaining everything, they would have been cooking, and then I would have just portioned it, green beans here and here. And then this day would have been done. In addition to this though, I would have a cake, which I just had my last one, so I need to do another batch of cakes after this. But that's the cake video for breakfast that I was talking about before. So I'll have like one of those cakes, which is 1 whole egg, 5 egg whites that I separate myself, 125 grams of oats, and there's about 300 grams of berries, like 200-300 grams of berries, depending on what I want to put in. And so that's 100-ish blended in, and 150-ish on top. And so that'll give me like 100 grams of carbs just from that, and 50-ish grams of protein, whatever. So that's my breakfast. And then this is what I'll have throughout the day. Typically I have like, I front load where I have the majority of my carbs in the morning. So like I'll have like that cake and an apple for breakfast. I'll have this for meal 2. Typically meal 3, meal 4, 5, and 6 is how I like to do it, where the carbs kind of taper off. I think is a good idea. That way you kind of get the most use out of them from the beginning of the day based off of your physical output. And then you kind of like taper that down as you won't need them when you go to sleep. You know, I'm not going to need a ton of carbs right before I go to bed, right? So that's how I think of it. But yeah, so this is kind of how I do it. Hopefully you took away something from this. If you have any questions, and with the trays and the containers and everything, I lay it out like this just to kind of consolidate and make sure it's all like contained and organized. And also if I drip, you know, food or rice or whatever, it's a lot easier to clean up. But yeah, so if you have any questions or anything, just let me know, in terms of portioning or food prep or training or whatever you want to know. So just let me know. A quick note on how I thaw the meat too, by the way, that I've alluded to. So I just take one of these Cambros, like what I mentioned before, to accommodate one of the vacuum sealed things of pork loin, of the sirloin, and of the 90-10. And again, so if I have a portion each day of the pork loin, this will last 3 days. I have 2 a day of the sirloin, and then 2 a day of the 90-10. There's 6 each of these. So this will last 3 days. So what I do is I just put it in the sink. I'll let the cold water, so this will fill up, and then once it's full, so that these are fully immersed, imagine like a kind of a reverse sous vide situation where like I want it to circulate cold water, and that will just thaw this significantly faster. There's science behind it, but that's just how I do it. I don't want to leave this in the sink overnight or anything. It's literally for this amount, especially if it's vacuum sealed like this, and if they're kind of separated and don't get on top of each other too much. It should fully thaw in something like 20 to 30 minutes, which is just enough time for this next batch of rice to cook. So again, the move is you put the rice on in the Instant Pot, throw this on to thaw, and then they kind of sync up just about perfectly where they're both done at the same time, and then you portion them up into the meals that I was just showing you. And that's how I thaw the meat. Yeah, see, once it starts to overflow like this, I just put it where it's like just over a trickle. So, like something like that. And then that is enough, believe it or not, to fully thaw all this. And again, like 20, 30 minutes, no problem. So yeah, that's how you thaw the meat quicker. Okay, Instant Pot just finished, so it should be all right. And then I just have the, pardon me, Pyrexes for the meat right here. Just gonna cut open the bags, put them in here. Set the rice in the containers like before, and then just portion them out. So typically, this is how I would do it. Now there's a little bit of ice on parts of the bag, but that really doesn't matter, it's fine. Just kind of shake off some of the water, dry off the bag so I don't get water everywhere. And it's okay too if these are still a little bit frozen, because they're gonna thaw from the heat of the rice and overnight and all that, so it's not a big deal. But so let's put these in here. Like I said, the round ones are the 90-10, squarish ones are the sirloin. And these are, I believe, 11 cup or 12 cup size Pyrex container for the big one with the blue lid. And then again, the small one is for the pork, to keep it separate from the beef. It's a 3 cup size. It's more than enough to accommodate 3 pieces, although like I said, 2 and 2 of the 90-10 and sirloin are going directly into the containers for tomorrow's food, and then one of the pork loin portions as well. Got some ice still on the outside, that's fine though. Plastic in the sink. Just kind of wrap up the plastic in on itself. And I kind of wrap the gloves around it like this to where it's all contained. That's to mitigate, you know, bug issues in the trash and all that. So Okay, so that's a lot easier than, you know, having to cook. What is this? 3, 6, 7.5, almost 8 pounds of meat. That's a lot easier than cooking 8 pounds of meat, right? So just having it ready to go, thaw it out, cut it up, or cut it out of the bags rather, put it here, and then we're good to go. So I'm just gonna portion out this pot for tomorrow's food, you know, throw this in there, and then the rest of it will just go in the fridge for the next 2 days, and that's it. So